What's up, you guys? My name is Aubrey and this is my channel, and today we're going to be discussing the EIDL loan and grant program. And if you are somebody who has heard that the grant is no longer a free grant and it is now contingent on the loan, then this video is for you because I have done a ton of research over the last 48 hours over this subject, and I found some interesting information for you guys. So let's get started. So first, let's start with a little bit of backstory. So the EIDL grant and loan program was introduced with the CARES Act back in March, and whenever it was first introduced, it was framed as a $10,000 flat rate grant that was given to any eligible business. But shortly after the program started functioning, the government came out, or the SBA came out more specifically, and said that they were changing it to a $1,000 grant per employee up to $10,000, and this caused a whole lot of commotion around the country, really, because it was going against what the government had said. It wasn't what was in the bill, and it kind of started this huge mess. But that's beyond the point, and that's a topic that I've talked about in other videos, and I'm sure I'll talk about it some more in future videos as well. But that second form of this program, the $1,000 per employee up to $10,000, is kind of what we've grown to learn and follow over the last few weeks or a couple of months. And the big piece of information that's super important to the grant program is that you were eligible for this grant regardless of whether or not you were approved and you accepted the loan offer. So you could go in, you could apply through the EIDL program, you could accept and receive the grant, but then a few weeks later you could be denied the loan. And the denial of the loan would not affect your grant, it wouldn't affect the forgiveness of the grant, it wouldn't have any effect on it at all. So you could keep this grant money regardless of the loan status. And so the fact that the grant was not contingent on the loan was a big deal because it made it extremely appealing to businesses, to independent contractors like myself, and to gig workers who needed some extra cash to help get them by. But recently, in the last couple of days, I've had a number of comments made on a number of my videos by a handful of different people stating that they heard from their SBA representative that this grant was now contingent on the loan, meaning that if you were not approved and if you did not accept the loan offer, you would not be receiving the grant. And this really kind of raised a whole lot of red flags for me because in my mind, and I think with a lot of other people who had applied for this program, the entire reason why this program was so appealing was because of the grant, because you could get some extra capital, you could get some funds to help keep you afloat for the time being without the worry of taking on excess liabilities and having to pay this back later on down the road. So the word from multiple people stating that now this has changed and now the grant was a contingency grant on the loan was huge, and it came as quite a shock to me. So I decided that I was going to dig in and do as much research as I could on this topic. And so I've really been doing as much as I could over the last 48 hours to figure out whether or not this claim was true. So I started my research with a Google search, and no shocker to any of us, the Google search turned to be incredibly ineffective, which isn't a shock because the fact is that finding information out online about the EIDL program has been extremely difficult, and it seems like there's a lot of smoke and mirrors of you can't really figure out what's going on unless you speak to somebody directly, and even then the information you get is kind of sketchy. And so after the Google search proved to be ineffective, I called up my representative at my bank that I have an SBA loan through. And even though SBA certified lenders are not the one handling the EIDL program, I thought that they may be able to have some information for me that I could use for this video, and that also proved to be ineffective, and my rep at my bank did not have a whole lot of information at all regarding the EIDL program, as his specialty over the last few weeks has been the PPP program. So my last resort was to call the SBA directly, and the SBA has a disaster loan assistance line. You can reach them via email as well as via a toll-free number, and I will include both the email and the toll-free number in the description below. So I decided that I was going to make 15 phone calls over the course of 48 hours to the SBA. And the reason for this was my thought process was that information is drastically different depending on who you're talking to. If you're talking to an SBA rep that actually cares, you will get a different answer than if you get one who just doesn't give a crap about you or your business. And so the thought was, if I get in contact with 15 people, there has to be at least a small portion of those people that know what they're talking about. And so what I did was I contacted 5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, and then 5 in the evening over the course of 2 days so that I could get a wide variety of answers and a wide variety of call representatives, and I could see what kind of the consensus was on these representatives that I spoke to. In reality, in order to talk to 15 customer representatives, I actually had to call the SBA probably close to 50 times because the majority of times that I called, it gave me a busy tone, which was incredibly frustrating, and it was incredibly difficult because I definitely understand that there's a lot of people that can't call the same business 50 times in 48 hours. So the fact that it's that hard to get in touch with an SBA representative, let alone a qualified SBA representative, is incredibly frustrating in itself, but that's an entirely different topic for a different video. So let's get to the results and what these 15 representatives said. So I asked these 15 representatives the same 3 questions. So the first question that I asked was, is the EIDL grant still not contingent on the loan? Meaning, can you accept the EIDL grant and not accept the loan or not get approved for the loan? Of the 15 individuals that I spoke to, 9 of which had said that the grant was not contingent on the loan and you could still get approved for the grant and not get approved or not accept the loan. 4 of the individuals were unsure whether or not this rule had changed. They did understand what I was asking and they understood the contingency between the 2 programs, but they could not say for certain whether or not the rules had changed. And then 1 person just straight up wouldn't say. They didn't give me any information. They wouldn't let me know even the current rules with the grant. And so this person was really completely useless. The second question that I asked was, can you get denied for the grant? Meaning that are there going to be a lot of individuals that are just simply denied the grant and that's kind of the end of story? And every single one of the reps that I spoke to said, yes, you can get denied for the grant. And they said that you should receive a denial letter if you don't get approved for the grant or the loan, but radio silence could also mean that you are not getting the grant. And the last question I asked was, are you guys still addressing applications in the order that they were received? Meaning that, is it still first come, first serve? And every single person I spoke to had said, yes, this is the case. The applications are being addressed in the order that they are received. And there is a massive backlog, and that the wait times really can be 6+ weeks before you hear anything about either your grant or your loan. Now, I don't know how helpful this is to you guys because I definitely understand that there is a communication issue with the SBA. There has been a number of you guys that have reported that the SBA has said that the grant is now contingent on the loan, but there's been a number of people that I've spoken to with the SBA directly that have said otherwise. And I'm not saying that you should necessarily trust what I am telling you, but I think that if anything, this video and my findings for this video have shown that we really can't trust anyone, unfortunately. I think that nobody really knows exactly what is going on, and nobody really knows the 100% truth. And I think that if the grant is still not contingent on the loan today, that does not mean that that won't change in the future. And so I think that kind of the consensus is, and the result of this is that if you haven't received your grant or your loan yet, you might still be receiving it. They are still chipping away at the grants and the loans, and so there is a chance that you will still receive either the grant, the loan, or both. And so all hope is not lost for you if you have not received it yet. I also think that it shows that the whole thing about the grant now being contingent on the loan might not be true, that there is still a chance that you can get the grant without getting the loan. And lastly, it means that if you're somebody who has applied at the end of April or at the beginning of April or mid-April and you still haven't heard anything, that's perfectly normal. I mean, every single rep that I spoke to had talked about the extreme backlogs and the fact that if you applied at the end of April, chances are you're not going to receive anything anytime soon. It's going to be closer to the end of May, if not the end of June, before you hear anything about the status of your loan and your grant and before really any progress is made. But all I can report is what these 15 SBA representatives had told me and report back to you what they said. So guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video and I hope that it gave you some insight at least as to what is going on with the EIDL program. I think if anything, we've learned that the information is sketchy at best and we need to take anything we hear with a grain of salt. So with that being said, you guys, if you guys could hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. Also, make sure to comment below any questions or comments you have, and I will make sure to address those in the next video. But in the meantime, I will see you guys in the next video.